design of a building says a lot about the people who built it, and that's no different for schools. A school's look and function speak to the priorities of its creators. So for more, let's bring in our education correspondent, Avi Wolfman-Arent.
So Shirley, in our first look this week, we're going to show you two Delaware schools, one new and one old. Together, they tell us a story about where education in the first state has been and where it might be going. Just outside the windows at MOT Charter High School in Middletown, you can catch glimpses of the past, but inside the focus is on the present.
So we have sets of laptops in here. The students have their own laptops they're issued. But
the newest school in this former farming community opened last fall, and everything about it feels different.
So these are made so that the classroom teacher or the students, they can open the space and they'll leave them open even acoustically. They can still be working.
Classroom walls are made of glass. Students work together in open breakout areas where they can write on the walls. The building looks like one massive hallway, which is a reflection of the school's philosophy, says Principal Elaine Elston.
We said we would like natural lighting in every space possible, spaces for collaboration, ways to have flexible furniture and different groupings, and transparency. And we just gave that to the architects. They came back with this design.
MOT High School has two academies, one in the arts, the other in the sciences. This new building, with its airy, flexible spaces, is designed to anticipate the future of education and the future of the workplaces MOT students hope to join.
Engineers never work in isolation. It's not the days of, well, if you're just really good at math and you can calculate, you can be an engineer. Engineers have to talk to a variety of other people that are bringing things to the project. So same thing for our kids. We want them starting, even before 9th grade, but especially here in the high school, to be able to communicate their ideas, problem solve, work together, listen to others, filter that information, and come out with the best solutions possible.
There's a lot of undefined space at MOT Charter, kind of like the open offices you see at tech startups. And that's on purpose. MOT doesn't want its students to master a bunch of separate disciplines. Instead, the school wants its students to master the art of learning so they can keep up in an ever-changing world.
They have to be the hardest working, the best problem solvers, the most innovative, the most creative, and the best takers in of information and the best communicators out of communication. So that's what we're building, and this space allows that, and I hope that all education is moving in that trend, because it would be a disservice to children for us not to do that.
Almost exactly 80 years ago, the DuPont family was also thinking about the future of education.
They had industries here in the first state that needed an educated workforce. It was impractical for them to go looking to Jersey, Philadelphia, whatever, for that workforce when you could have a homegrown workforce of equal ability.
One problem. At the dawn of the 20th century, Delaware's education system was among the nation's worst, and its facilities reflected that, says local historian and city planner Patricia Maley.
You're thinking, or should be thinking, the proverbial one-room schoolhouse, where I teach you, you teach George, George teaches Susie, and it goes down to the little kid who's running around screaming.
Starting in 1920, the DuPonts helped build a flurry of modern schools, and in 1935 came the crown jewel, Pierre S. DuPont High School in Wilmington.
You can see as we walk into it, it is a glorious space.
P.S. DuPont had features that were practically unheard of at the time. A massive auditorium, 2 gymnasiums, a light-filled library, even a separate arts wing with its own decorative entryway.
It was unusual. This was, as far as I know, first in the area. And certainly this made people feel that, oh, art's something serious.
When P.S. DuPont was finished, the Wilmington school superintendent called it the modern educator's ideal. The building's looming stature and ornamental flourishes signaled to everyone that education was an important public good.
What the DuPonts tried to do in doing a metamorphosis of that system was to make it, the architecture, something that would inspire people coming in. That education was a wonderful thing. It was a thing of beauty, and it was also a doorway to a better life in the future.
Unlike MOT Charter School, P.S. DuPont emphasized distinct disciplines with distinct spaces. free movement and collaboration weren't embedded in the design. But in many ways, the old building, which now serves as a middle school, has stood the test of time.
It established a benchmark, and I'm seeing in many instances schools coming back to this with the natural light, with the open spaces, and I think that's a good thing.
Part of what makes PS DuPont so stunning are its decorative elements. Even the air vents are intricate and decorative. Today, many of us take for granted the notion that public education is important, but back then, the DuPonts were trying to convince their community to make education a priority. The grandeur of the building itself was a symbol of that.
Now, Avi, I want to ask about the MOT Charter building. You know, with all of the glass walls and sliding doors, how are the students able to do any work?
We asked that question, actually, some of the students and teachers. They said it was a little distracting at first, but they've gotten used to it, they said.
Are the open floor plans for schools, is this sort of the new thing now that we're going to be seeing in more schools?
It's a new thing, but it's also an old thing. I mean, you can actually go back to the 1970s and 80s. There was these things called open space schools. Not many walls, very open. It encouraged a lot of interchange and free movement. It didn't work out so well, actually. Teachers ended up putting barriers because the noise and the confusion was just too much to get anything done.
So are we doomed to repeat history here then?
I mean, it's possible. I will say that the schools like MOT Charter are not quite as open. And another thing to point out is they have new technology to help isolate sound. But I did talk to some experts who worry a little bit about this trend toward more open, flexible schools. I remember one in particular telling me, you can make a space that's really flexible, that works for a lot of purposes, but it runs the risk of being a mediocre space for everybody.
Okay. Very interesting. Thank you so much, Avi. And as always, you can read more of our education coverage at newsworks.org/Delaware.